So now let's learn about our third one. And again, these can be used standalone. They do not have to be used in the way that I'm showing them, but I'm showing both using them with just the initial array or maybe an array that has been filtered or mapped over. Okay, so now on the reduce, right, it executes the user supplied reducer. A very common use for this is actually to get a total. Okay, because if you had to write total longhand, yeah, you can do it, totally do it. But it's just a little more complicated and it's a little more code. And so if you know how to use these higher order functions, we can do this. So what does it need, right? It needs, when we call reduce, an accumulator and the current value. So this would be like post what we had before. And in this case, it's actually going to add the accumulator. So now in this case, we're setting that initial value. It's setting it explicitly here, but I'm going to show you how we can just set it when we write it. Okay. And then it iterates over, starts that initial accumulator to 0, and then as it iterates over, it just takes the value and it adds it. Now you could do other operations here for sure, but like I said, the most common one is to total, get sum. So let's do that here. So now that we have these post, right, the array from map, okay, so now let's do total. Now I'm going to actually call it what it is here, because it's not actually returning an array. It's going to return something from me looking at, again, I'm going to do a sum. You could do other calculations. Okay, so this is going to be equal to, now I could start with the post or I could start with what I've already mapped based on my criteria, but let's actually start with the post. Now if we do that, will that work though? Okay, I want you to think about that. In the way that we've done that here, yeah, it wouldn't work, because what we want to do is add up the lengths to see what's the total length, right, of all. Coming back here, actually it's going to break the code real quick, but looking at here, like if I wanted to total up all this and say of that users, right, and in this case we're looking at title links, what was the total amount of that user's titles? Now why would I want to get that? Possibly to get to the average, right? So let's just remember along the way how to calculate. I do know how to spell average, right? How to calculate average. Adding the group of numbers and then dividing by the count of the numbers. So how do we get, right? By adding the group of numbers. So that's what we're going to do on our reduce. So I can't use, right, I can't use this because I don't have it there. Now I could possibly rewrite that, but I'm going to use mapped because I already have the links as the title post in the array. Okay, so here I would do, mapped post dot reduce. Now this is where it gets different. Okay, and I'm going to write it in a single line. Now I could have done that, and I should have done that one like I did before. But when we're reducing, right, we want to have a sum, and in this case I'm going to say length. Now this would refer to each of the individual items in, this array. Okay, arrow function, and what I would do is say sum plus length, because length is the length of it. And now one other thing I need to do is set that initial value of sum. So when I'm writing a reduce, it looks a little different because in this case I'm accumulating a number, accumulating a value based on it looking at each of my items. And in this case, I'm saying sum, the first time around that sum will be set to 0, and it'll add 0 to whatever that, and in this case length, is referencing the item in that array. Let's see if I wrote it right. Okay, oh, and then of course to look at it, what would I want to do? Oh, look at that. Look at that. So we could go through and check it. Does it look right? Yeah, it looks all right. Looks right. Okay. Okay, so now here's your code challenge, right? How would you calculate average? So I want you to give that a shot, and then I will come back around and show you how I would do it, or how you'd probably do it. Again, think about, right? How do you calculate average? What do you need? Do you already have what you need to calculate the average? So what we're asking here is based on our reduce, we're going to reduce it to a total. How do I then get, right? What would average be? Would it be equal to what? Okay, so this one we went over pretty quick. Worth definitely looking at the reduce. Okay, and understanding why we couldn't go after the post is because they had not been, the posts were an object array of objects, right? And in this case, because we ended up using these together, again, you don't have to, we were able to then create an array with just the links that we wanted, and then we could iterate over that using the reduce to get a total. Okay, so that's your challenge. Give that a shot and I'll give you a commit for it.